Well, it is good for us to be here. All right. So I want to talk, I've been talking about the land of Goshen the last few days, and I want to talk about the dilemma that we have in America. This is what we call Black History Month, and I want to talk about the dilemma that we have as far as economics is concerned and why Goshen is very important. Now, let me say this, and I'm going to give you this analogy, and everybody ought to think about it. If I go to Africa and I get a lion out of the wild and take that lion and put him in a zoo in America and tame him, put him in the zoo. I get an elephant out of Africa and put him in a zoo in America and tame him. Can I take that elephant once he's been domesticated and take that lion once he's been domesticated and take him back and set him in the wild in Africa and expect them to survive? No. And it becomes the responsibility of that man who have taken that elephant, because he took the elephant out of the wild and raised him tame, because he took the lion out of the wild and raised him tame, he got to take care of that elephant the rest of his life till that elephant die, because he have taken that elephant skill to survive on his own. He's taken that lion skill to survive on his own. In this climate that we here live now, you hear a lot of white politicians and white people say, black people always lazy, black people ought to do this, white people, well, you got to remember, you took him out of a country where he could take care of himself and domesticated him and made him an animal, and now he has that dependency on you, and now you want to send him back in the wild and say, take care of yourself. That's a problem. Now what we have to do, and I want everybody to know, that's solid. That's solid. It's psychologically true. You know, when people get ready to experiment, they experiment on animals to see how it has an effect on humans. The chimpanzee, now you take him over there, you're going to feed him the rest of his life bananas. You take the elephant, you bring him over here, you're going to feed him the rest of his life hay. You take the lion, you're going to take him over here, you're going to feed him the rest of his life and take him in the rest of his life, because you know you have a responsibility. And if you try to set him back in the wild, you're going to say that's animal cruelty, because you stripped him of his mental instinct. So now you complain about welfare, you complain about all these programs and people being taken care of. That's the cost of you taking somebody out of the wild where they can take care of themselves and making them an animal. That's your zoo cost. Slavery does not just cost the person who's been enslaved, but it costs the person who enslaves him. This is what the Bible says, and let me go to this from a biblical standpoint. Now, that's not going to happen in America, so I'm saying now we need to go back and try to learn get survival skills. But I want to deal with why people think, why many black people think the way they think, and they do the way they do and do the things they do. It was a study done, and they found out there's a gene that's in the black man that was enslaved in America that's not in any other black people in the world. It's a gene. It comes from trauma. I'll talk more about that this week. I only have one more day for the week. All right? I want you to look at this. Now, there are those who say, well, slavery has happened. That's done away with. Now, again, I'm talking about us not looking for America to do it, because they're not going to do it. But I'm just telling you why we're there and why we have these problems that we have and these issues that we have. Go to the book of I think I want Leviticus. All right, let me give you this. Leviticus 25. We have to realize I want to give you this. It's Deuteronomy 15. Deuteronomy 15. So again, let me explain to those who are complaining about black people who are on welfare, which I don't agree with the welfare program and all these, but they're complaining about those on welfare. Again, complaining about those that are on these government assistance. And remember, if you take a man out, I'm going to give you that example again. If I take an elephant from Africa and bring him over here and put him in a zoo, I can't take him back in the wild and expect him to take care of himself. If I take a lion and take him out of the zoo and bring him into America, take him out of the wild, bring him in America, I can't expect that lion to go back. He'll die. He wouldn't survive. Because he's been domesticated, meaning he loses his wild instinct to hunt for himself. So when you take a man, put him in bars, keep him in bars, and keep him in bars and treat him like an animal for over 100 years and then tell his family to go and take care of yourself, you're going to have a problem. He don't know how. He did when he was over in Africa in the wild. He don't know how to do it over here because there's something psychologically that give him able to do it for ourselves. Now you say, stop all the programs, get rid of them. Yeah, but you made us like this. And again, I tell you, and I say this, and I know some folk ain't going to like it, but if America took care of every one of us for the rest of our life and nobody had to work, there's enough that my mama and daddy and aunties them done that you ought to be doing something because you crippled us by taking us out of the wild. And it goes on from generation to generation and generation to generation. But we're not asking you to take care of us now. We're just asking you, hey, now let us learn how to get back our instinct to do this. And folk will say, well, that happened all those years ago. And that happened so many years ago. And so forget it. It's over. Don't talk about it. Don't deal with it. It's over, so forget it. But that's not the case. It don't happen like that because we'll never be fair. We'll never be on the same playing field in our society. Somebody's going to always be lopsided. Why? Because as a white individual, if I die, I get my mama's inheritance. But because I worked for your mother and I gave her my money as a slave, I don't get no inheritance. So your grandparents get my inheritance in theirs. They don't like to talk about stuff like this because folks say y'all leave that alone. That ain't no leave it alone. I'm living here. I'm living that issue. But that's not the reality of what's going to happen. So we got to find out a way. That's why Goshen must be built. Look at that. Watch this. Look what Deuteronomy say you're supposed to say if you had a slave. Is what Deuteronomy said. What else? 15 and what? 15 and 12. Look what it says. 15 and 12.
And if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee and serve thee 6 years.
If they're sold to you and serve you 6 years.
Then in the 7th year.
In the 7th year.
Thou shalt let him go free from thee.
Let him go free. And what you got to do?
And when thou sendest him
when you send him out.
Free from thee.
Free from thee.
Thou shalt not let him go away empty.
Don't let him go away broke. What you got to do?
Thou shalt furnish him liberally.
You shall give him some money. Take care of him.
Out of thy flock.
Out of your flock.
And out of thy floor.
You give him some of your cattle. You give him some of your goat. You give him some of your, you give him some because he's been a slave. You have to. So now I ask you, what did you give the slave when you released him? Now, they tried to, and they know they should have done something. That's why I said 40 acres and a mule. They knew they were supposed to do something, but they didn't. That's Bible. So why am I telling you that you're supposed to take care of the slave? Because you enslaved him, and that's book. And don't tell me I ain't got no Bible to back me up with it, because the book said. Now we got this broken system that America has with all these black people who are dependent upon the government simply because you didn't do what you were supposed to do at first when you released him. That's the Bible. Because it say, I want you to put him on the same playing field when you let him go. I didn't make that up. That's Bible. Read it again.
And if thy brother, an Hebrew man or an Hebrew woman,
yes,
be sold unto thee, and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee.
Let him go free.
And
then you can only hold him 7 years. Let him go free.
And when thou sendest him out free from thee,
yes,
thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress.
Yes.
Of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in the land of Egypt.
So remember, you was a bondman in the land of Egypt. You tell them,
And the Lord thy God redeemed thee.
Now let me tell you how the Lord do this to confirm this, that I'm right. Israel had been a slave for many years. And the Lord said, look here, I ain't going to let them trap you. When you leave, y'all borrow from them. Go get the book of Exodus and see I'm in the book. 3rd chapter. All right? 3rd chapter of Exodus. Because God didn't want them to experience economical setback. Exodus 3 and 21. Start Exodus 3 and 20, all right? You with me?
And I will stretch out my hand,
yes,
and smite Egypt with all wonders which I will do in the midst of them,
yes,
in the midst thereof.
Yes.
And after that, he will let you go.
Yes.
And I will give his people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And it shall come to pass, when they go, they shall not go empty.
No, I can't let them go. They've been in slavery 400 years. I can't let them go empty. So America, if you're trying to figure out what's wrong with black people, why can't they come up? Why can't they do this? Well, if you're trying to figure out what's wrong, it's because we were released wrong. God said, I can't let them leave out of slavery empty, because they have never got a chance to gain anything for themselves. Because what's going to happen, if I free you from a place physically, you're still bound as a slave economically and mentally and psychologically. So even today, black people are still in slavery. But we think we're not in slavery because we ain't got no change. You're in slavery economically, and so God said, don't just release him physically, release him economically. So they say slavery ended, physical slavery ended, but not psychological and financial slavery. It's still here. That's Bible. So that's what needs to happen to the people that are there. And you got a lot of people there in Washington that are Republican, and I'm not against whatever you want to be, but they say they're Christian. They believe in the Bible. Do you believe in that? They believe in that. They believe in that part. That's all I'm saying. We're with you. We're against homosexuality. We're against abortion. We're against all that, but we're also against racism. And if you're going to use that Bible, use that part there. That's in there. What he says, read.
But every woman
yes,
shall borrow of her neighbor and of her that sojourneth in her house jewels of silver, and jewels of gold, and raiment. And ye shall put them upon your sons and upon your daughters, and ye shall spoil the Egyptians.
I'm going to say it, and I said clear, America owes us some money. People say they don't, they do. And they must take liability for what this lazy problem. They must take liability for this not doing for ourselves problem. They must take responsibility of it, and they must say, hey, we did do something wrong. We did not go by what the Bible said, how we ought to do this from the Bible. And now we got a problem that month to month we got to send a check. Week to week we got to send a check. Now we got a problem that people, they don't know how. We say, well, some people have thrived, but those are people who have learned how to recover. And we thank God, but you can't put a man in a cage and expect him to come out and act like a man. If you put him in the cage to act like a dog, when you release him, you done train him, he's going to act like a dog. So what we've been raising now are not men, we're raising dogs. We're raising animals. We're not raising men, we're raising animals. Because they never got the animal out of them. Because you can't treat me like a dog and release me and ask me to act like a man. You can't treat me like a horse and get me out and ask me to act like a man. So now they want somebody that they've trained to act like a... We were men when we got here. We became dogs when you put us in the cage. Now you want to release us back and say, now act like a man. I've been on all four. Now act like a man. And that's the problem that we have, and what makes us upset as black men is that you can't comprehend it. You can't see it. Can't get it in your head. And we're not, and there's no Democratic on our side or no Republican on our side. So if I can't get the Democrat on my side and the Republican on my side, at least I can have the Christian on my side, but he's just as blind as the other one. Y'all with me? Does it make any sense? Now go back to that Exodus. Exodus chapter 12 and 34. Exodus 12 and 34. Amen. And so I want to talk about what Goshen is about now. 12 and 34, what does it say?
And the people took their dough before it was leavened, their kneading troughs being bound up in their clothes upon their shoulders. Mm-hmm. And the children of Israel did according to the word of Moses. And they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment. Mm-hmm. And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they lent unto them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. Mm-hmm. And the children of Israel sojourned from...
Why does God want this to happen? Because God recognizes while I'm in slavery, a part of your income came from me. And when you release me, I need to get my lump sum. Because your wealth is associated with my wealth. And so you owe me. America, as long as you don't give that portion of the wealth that belong to the people that you enslave, you're in trouble with God. Out of the trillions and zillions and billions of dollars that you got, a part of that money belongs to those that you let go. And now you got a real serious problem, because now not only the problem now is this. Even if you release the money, you have treated us like dogs so long, we don't know how to do with it. We don't know what to do with it. So there's a psychological aspect that now he has to be brought back. You know, if a man or a woman has been in an abusive relationship for 6 months, a year, they want to get her counseling. They help her get back. You're going to take a whole nation and keep them in it for 400 years and don't give us no counseling to get us back? And you're going to take her, she got her head beat up one time by a stupid Negro, beat up for 6 months. They're going to put her in talking about you need some counseling. You're going to whoop our behind for 400 years and going to tell us to go on back and go about your business? You must be crazy. There's something wrong with you. And you think we're going to be normal. You think you're dealing with normal people? You think you're dealing with normal? Oh, them black niggas over there like animals. Yeah, that's what we were trained to act like. Now, where are you going to program back and put counseling back and program back at your expense to say, hey, let's give him back his wild instincts. Let's train him how to deal with money. Let's acknowledge this was wrong. And then let's put some wealth in his hand like the Bible says. But now the problem is you bring somebody over from Ukraine and somebody from another country who ain't never suffered your abuse, and you pay him. So how does God deal with this? Israel, and we're talking about, and I've been talking about this. And I want to talk about Goshen and what Goshen was. I want to talk about that Goshen so everybody understands. Goshen was God told the children of Israel, I want y'all to get Joseph told, I want you to get your own land. Y'all live in that land by yourself, separated from the economy of Egypt so that you can thrive and you can be successful. Not for racial reasons, but for economical reasons. I want to help you to build your own economy. And he put them in there so that they can have a sense of independency. Every person ought to be able to have his own independence. I'm afraid about where we're going now. And if it was the normal situations and the normal things that was going on, and we all didn't have this unique story about us as blacks, and I heard somebody say, why the black people playing the victim? We ain't playing the victim. We was a victim. And that conversation, we got to have that conversation. We got to admit, we got to acknowledge. And what blacks in America have to do is gain back their independency and their instinct to hunt. And this is what my entire project has been here at the church, by building the grocery store, by building the houses, by building the gym. But not the typical church. The typical church just want to build them where people can come and go to church. But I'm trying to now build Goshen, or build places that we can know how to get it ourselves, know how to survive ourselves, self-sufficient. And I want you to understand, you all that are listening now, and I want everybody to understand this here now. So, well, why is it about? We have no government programs coming in this church. We get no grant money from the government, none at all, none from the government. There are scholarships that help with our schools, but those are private donating individuals. We get no government money. And somebody said, and we were getting ready to build some houses. And they said, you ought to go, the government is giving out money. I said, no, I don't want them to do that. I want them to do that. They said, but it's cheaper. No, I want to do it myself because I want them to know that we're wild. You go down, watch this concept again. Do you know how many years you can get for going in the wild and feeding an alligator? Look that up on your phone. You can go to jail for feeding an alligator. It's illegal. Try to pull it up. What is the crime of feeding an alligator in America? I'll tell you why, in Florida. Watch this. I want you to get this. Watch it. How many years you can get? What does it say?
Florida law prohibits the feeding of alligators. Feeding alligators is punishable by up to $500 in fines and 60 days in jail.
Wait, why? Why? Because he's in the wild. And they say if you go and feed him, you interrupt nature, and he will stop hunting for himself and die. Think about it. I'm going to go to jail if I feed the alligator and don't let him go get his own food, because he loses his instinct, and it will mess up the ecosystem. Because God designed the ecosystem that the alligator would go eat, so some of this stuff that would get overpopulated, it won't. If I feed him, he won't eat the stuff that he's supposed to eat out there, and it just grows and go wild. So it will throw the eco off. So when you take a slave and put him in slave, it throws our eco off. And now you got one person who has more resources than the other, and the other one who's poor, because the man that would be able to go out there and hunt on his own can't. He's bound. He could go get a whole hog, but you throw him some chitlins. Now it throws the whole system off. The whole economic problem that we have in America now has been thrown off by slavery. Now, if I can get fined 60 days in jail or $500 for feeding the alligator, how much should you get fined for taking us and putting us in a cage and feeding us? Hello? America, you have been fined. How long should I take care of that nigga? You've been fined. That's what we're dealing with. And you can't get people in America to understand. I'm not supporting laziness. I'm not supporting not working, but you need to know you caused the problem. And if you cause the problem, you got to be a part of the solution. Amen. Amen. When Israel left Egypt, and I want you to get this, talking about independence, none of the people that went out from Egypt went into the promised land, because psychologically they weren't prepared, because they was dependent upon Egypt. And even when they was out there, they say, let us go back to Egypt, where we had food over there. Let us go back to Egypt. Why? Because even though they were liberated, mentally, they didn't know how to survive. They didn't know how to take care of themselves. Moses, who was a liberated man, now watch. Moses, and I'm going to go, but I got to get you this. Moses was in the wilderness 40 years. And after 40 years, Moses had a different mindset, and Moses was never raised as a slave. He was raised in the master's house. He's black. He's raised in the master's house, same nation, same nationality of people, but where he was raised was different. He wasn't raised as a slave. He was raised as a master. He didn't have the same mentality. Moses didn't think like a slave, so that's why God could take him to say, get him out of here. And when he was bringing them out, they still talking about, let's go back to Egypt. He said, let's come back here. He had to force them to go forward. The same race. That's why black people outside of our country and even in Africa can come over here and thrive, and we can't, because they was raised as masters. We were raised as slaves. And we can be here 30 years, and they come over here in 2 years and have more business, have more money, and thrive right in the place that we've been on, because it's our mindset. So the church must do the job of liberating us psychologically and repairing the damage of slavery. I hope this helped you. I hope this helped you. I hope you all listen. I hope it helped you. And if you got offended with what I said, so be it. I meant what I said and said what I mean. This is where we are. And the church now has to know what its job is. The church's job now is to not cripple people and tell them, because it ain't going to happen. They keep dependent upon people to do something that they ain't going to do. The church job now is to teach the people how to be independent, how to be wild again, and not wild in the negative sense, how to be wild again, to go back, take care of himself. Just look at the things that our folk do, man, in the streets, how they acting, and they don't act. It's because of what's been put. Our dances, the dog, the monkey, the frog. They sit up, they slow dragging like people, and we. That's the animal dance. You know, they all on the ground. Like animals, like frogs, animals. That's where it come from. Girls all bend over. They can't stand up right. That's dogs, animals. Now you go, they dance, they stand up just like humans. Well, all right, guys, let me get out of here. I love y'all. All right, take me off.